On the woman's first day working as a tutor at the home of the richest man, she noticed that water was dripping at the main entrance. She instantly understood what was going on, so she casually picked up an umbrella by the door before pushing it open. Sure enough, a basin of dirty water was poured down from above the door, but it was completely blocked by the umbrella. Seeing this, several spoiled young ladies who had played the prank were instantly dumbfounded. The woman took the opportunity to introduce herself, but the richest man's son on the second floor, still unconvinced, threw several darts at her. Little did he know that the woman was actually a top-tier assassin, and the identity of a tutor was just one of her covers to hide herself. She caught the darts with almost no effort at all. In response, she also poured the water from her cup onto the richest man's son's head. Not even the boy's friends were spared. Enraged by this, the friends tried to rush up and beat her, but the woman calmly took out her phone to record a video, threatening to send it to the richest man. The friends then left in a panic. However, this move completely infuriated the boy. Over the next week, he exhausted all kinds of means to try to drive the woman away. He placed a venomous snake on her bed, only to have the woman crush it to death directly with her hand. The boy then found a chance to lock her in the basement and played horror music to try to scare her to death. Unexpectedly, the woman didn't care at all and slept there for the whole night. The boy was thus completely at a loss. His friends came up with an idea for him to trick the woman into handing him a towel while he was taking a bath and take the opportunity to pull her into the bathroom. At that moment, a maid came upstairs to deliver fruit. The woman suddenly realized that the boy was deliberately trying to let the maid see this scene so that the richest man might take the initiative to replace her. Little did he know that the woman didn't care about these things at all. Instead, she even pressed the boy against the wall, pretending to be intimate with him. The boy then awkwardly scolded her for being crazy and loudly told the maid to leave the fruit outside and go away. Only then did the woman stop teasing him, but she warned that she would teach him how to respect his teacher during the upcoming class. However, the boy fell seriously ill right after taking a bath. When the woman went to check on him, she found him hugging a portrait of his deceased mother. The woman was then surprised to discover that the boy's mother was actually her benefactor. It turned out that when the woman was a child, she had almost been sold by her father, but it just so happened that the richest man's wife, who was there for poverty alleviation, saved her and gave their family a sum of money every year to let her go to school. That was how the woman had made it to where she was today. At this moment, the woman also noticed that one of the boy's fingers was broken. She turned around and called the richest man to ask what had happened. Only then did she learn that after the boy lost his mother, he used to cry all the time. The richest man found him too annoying, so he broke his finger. Hearing this, the woman suddenly thought of her own father and couldn't help but scold him for being unworthy of being a father. But the richest man said that he had many sons, and the boy was the most useless one. He claimed that it was already generous of him not to kick the boy out of the house. As he spoke, he also warned the woman not to meddle in other people's business. At that moment, the boy, who was in his sleep, mistook her for his mother and grabbed her, not letting her go. Seeing this, the woman couldn't help but feel even more sympathy for him and secretly decided to change her way of teaching him in the future. Unexpectedly, after the boy recovered from his illness, he completely changed his previous standing image and no longer rejected the woman. He even started listening to her classes seriously. But on this day, when the woman came for the class, she found that the richest man's illegitimate sons were bullying the boy because the boy was the least favored child. The illegitimate sons often bullied him like this, and the richest man would not interfere. They even deliberately destroyed his mother's portrait. Seeing this scene, the woman could not bear it any longer and rushed forward directly. She grabbed a handful of garbage and stuffed it into the illegitimate son's mouth. The illegitimate son originally shouted insults and tried to resist. The woman kicked him to the ground. She threatened to knock out all his teeth if he dared to insult them again. Seeing this, the illegitimate son's friends were also terrified and did not dare to fight back. However, the illegitimate son still tried to threaten the woman with his father's power, yet the woman did not care at all. Instead, she made him kneel down and apologize to the boy. Otherwise, she would send the video she just took to his father and the media, letting everyone see the true face of this outstanding illegitimate son. Upon hearing this, the illegitimate son finally felt afraid. He could only obediently kneel down and apologize. But before leaving, he did not forget to mock the boy for being a loser. He even said the boy had to rely on a woman to stand up for him. Little did he know that the boy was not a loser. He immediately saw that the woman had not recorded a video. He also reminded the woman that if the illegitimate son realized this, he would come back for revenge. Upon hearing this, the woman immediately appreciated his intelligence, but she thought he was a bit cowardly. She then advised him to learn to fight back. However, the nanny standing nearby told the woman the boy was not being cowardly. He was just afraid of hurting the illegitimate son and angering his father. Only then did the woman realize how starved for love the boy was, so she immediately advised him not to use cowardice to win others' attention. It would be better to use his own intelligence and strength to conquer his father, to take back everything that rightfully belonged to him. That night, the woman personally celebrated the boy's birthday. She also prepared a gift that she had sewn by hand. Unexpectedly, the boy was immediately moved to tears when he saw it, because he had not received such a heartfelt gift in a long time. Looking at the boy's appearance of wanting to cry but being embarrassed to do so, the woman immediately thought he was very cute. What surprised her even more was, early the next morning, the nanny told her that something big had happened. The boy had actually woken up early in the morning to study diligently, but going from a poor student to a good student was not easy. Even the nanny thought he had fried his brain from the fever he had last time. Even his good friends couldn't help but advise him to give up. After all, they were all students in the worst class in the entire school. There were only 2 more months until graduation. Studying now had no meaning whatsoever, but the woman believed this was a very good start. To encourage the boy, she specifically dragged him out to look at the stars. She told the boy that even if others could not see the distant stars, she could see that there was one star that had been trying its best to shine. She believed that one day, everyone would finally be able to see it. Only then did the boy realize that the woman had high expectations for him. He immediately shouted at the night sky that he would never be a loser again. But this scene was just seen by his illegitimate younger brother who had come over. He immediately sneered in a sarcastic tone, mocking the boy for being funny. After all, he had failed every subject in the college entrance exam. He only got into the current university by relying on the family's money. However, only the woman knew that the boy was actually very smart. He had just been wasting his potential, so she immediately made a bet with the illegitimate son, claiming that the boy would definitely appear on the list of outstanding graduates. Upon hearing this, the illegitimate son and the others laughed even harder. They also bet that if the boy could become an outstanding graduate, they would stand on their heads and eat shit. In order to witness the spectacle of them standing on their heads to eat shit, the boy immediately wanted to high-five the woman and work hard together. Only then did the woman suddenly realize that the boy who had regained his fighting spirit was very charming. She couldn't help but praise him for being handsome. Upon hearing this, the boy suddenly became a little shy, but he suddenly mustered up the courage to praise the woman for being beautiful as well. As he spoke, he suddenly kissed the woman. Then, he quickly ran away using the excuse that he had just slipped and lost his balance. Instead, it was the woman who started blushing. An uneducated playboy fell in love with his tutor. He even started studying hard just for her. No one expected him to complete 4 years of college coursework in just 2 months. But when he went to find the woman right after his graduation exams, he discovered her talking to a strange man. The boy immediately felt a surge of jealousy and suspicion. He suspected the stranger was the woman's boyfriend. Little did he know, the woman was actually a top-tier spy hiding her identity as a tutor. And that man was merely a colleague delivering a new mission to her. As soon as the man left, the boy couldn't help but ask who he was. The woman flusteredly lied, claiming he was just a stranger asking for directions. But the boy instantly saw through her lie. He became even more convinced that the woman and that man had an improper relationship. He couldn't help but want to confess his love to the woman, but the words stuck in his throat and he swallowed them back. After all, he hadn't yet fulfilled the teacher's expectations. He planned to wait until the graduation results were announced. Soon, the day of the graduation ceremony arrived. The boy's wealthy father arrived at the scene accompanied by his illegitimate son. Upon seeing the woman, he asked in confusion why she was there as well. The illegitimate son standing beside him spoke in a sarcastic and insinuating tone. He said the woman had previously bet with him that the boy would get good grades and become an outstanding student, so she had come to cheer for the boy. But the illegitimate son didn't tell the father. The condition of their bet was that if the illegitimate son lost, he would have to eat shit while standing on his head. Hearing this, the wealthy man approved of the woman's dedication, but he looked down on his own playboy son with disdain. He also said that he had hired many tutors for the boy, merely to get him to muddle through to graduation safely, so that he wouldn't cause him to lose face. He absolutely refused to believe that good-for-nothing could get good grades. However, the woman stated that she believed in the boy. She hoped the wealthy man would also believe in his own son. But upon hearing this, the wealthy man didn't bother speaking with her further. At that moment, the teachers began announcing the list of outstanding students, but after student went on stage to receive their awards, the boy's name was never called. Seeing this, the illegitimate son immediately couldn't resist mocking. He said the boy's name still hadn't appeared, and he had the audacity to want to be an outstanding student. Could it be that he got the worst grades and was going to be criticized by the entire school? Hearing this, the father immediately flew into a rage. He directly told the illegitimate son to call the boy over. He reprimanded him, saying that if he still had any shame, he should lower his head and roll back home, and not humiliate him there. However, the woman interrupted to encourage the boy to hold his head up. She said he was the best student she had ever taught, and she was proud of him regardless of the outcome. Upon hearing this, the boy finally ignored his father, who had never cared about him, and bravely held his head up. At that moment, the principal personally announced the final outstanding student, claiming that this student used to be very poor at studying, but his graduation exams had given the entire school leadership a big surprise. When the principal read out the boy's name, everyone was stunned. Even his wealthy father, who had always thought the boy was useless, was extremely surprised. But just as the boy walked onto the stage to receive the award, his illegitimate younger brother raised an objection in public. He argued that the boy had always been ignorant and unlearned. He insisted that the boy must have cheated or plagiarized to get such good grades. The reason why the illegitimate son was so agitated was not only because he was worried that the boy would steal their father's affection, but also because he had previously made a bet with the woman. He had bet that if the boy became the top graduate, he would stand on his head and eat shit. However, the principal personally told everyone that they had already confirmed that the boy did not plagiarize. The illegitimate son wanted to cause more trouble, but he was taught a lesson by his father. Afterward, he was even forced by the woman to fulfill the bet. As a result, the illegitimate son vomited for the entire day, but he did not dare to provoke the woman who knew martial arts. He could only shift his hatred onto the boy, so he had someone get a bottle of wine laced with drugs. He wanted to trick the boy into drinking it to create a scandal. Little did he know that the boy saw through his trick immediately. The boy, who had always been weak, directly picked up the bottle and poured it all into the illegitimate son's mouth. The illegitimate son shouted that he was crazy, but the boy said that he had allowed the illegitimate son to bully him before, only because he wanted to get his father's attention. But from now on, he decided he would no longer be weak. With that said, he beat up the illegitimate son again. The reason why the boy was so so irritable was because he had just taken the reward for being the top graduate to find the woman, only to be told that she was leaving. Recalling the handsome man he had seen talking to her earlier, the boy assumed that she was going to find a boyfriend. At that moment, the boy saw the remaining glass of spiked wine on the table. He suddenly came up with an idea to keep the woman. On the other side, just as the woman was packing her luggage to leave, she suddenly received a call from the boy. She was told that he had been forced by the illegitimate son to drink a glass of wine. The woman immediately went over to take him to the hospital, but the boy said he did not want others to see him in this state. He wanted the woman to help him. With that said, he kissed the woman directly. The woman flustered and pushed him away. She told him that she was his teacher, but the boy could no longer hold back his feelings. He confessed that he wanted the woman to be his lover. The reason he started studying hard was not only because of the woman's encouragement, but also because the woman had offended the vengeful illegitimate son for his sake. He wanted to become strong to protect her. The boy even said that his previous kiss was not because his foot slipped either. He believed that when the woman praised him for being handsome, she must have also felt a little moved. Seeing that the woman did not refute, the boy kissed her again. This time, the woman did not push him away. They spent a beautiful night together. However, the next day, just as the two of them woke up, a killer suddenly rushed into the room to kill the woman. At the critical moment, the boy stood in front of the woman. He took the bullet and collapsed to the ground. Fortunately, it did not hit a vital organ and there was no danger to his life, but the woman felt that she had implicated him. So when the boy woke up, she resolutely proposed to leave. Upon hearing this, the boy could not help but ask if she was going to find her boyfriend, because the boy had accidentally seen the woman talking to a colleague before. At that time, the woman seemed a little nervous for fear of exposing her identity. The boy had therefore mistakenly assumed that the colleague was the woman's boyfriend. The woman could only tell him that things were not what he thought, but the boy suddenly hugged the woman to stop her from leaving. He also said that the reason he drank the spiked drink that night was because he did it on purpose. His purpose was to use this method to keep the woman. He knew that he was not worthy of the woman yet, but he would work hard to become strong to protect her. He wanted to be with the woman forever. The woman, who had long been tempted, could not help but be persuaded upon hearing this. She then told him that she needed to think about it. She turned around and submitted her resignation to her superior, but she still needed half a year for handover work to clear out the assassins who posed a threat to her by the way. So the woman turned around and told the boy that he was still young. He would meet many women in the future. Maybe his mind would change by then, but the boy firmly stated that there would only be the woman in his heart. Seeing this, the woman took the opportunity to say that promises were not just empty words. She decided to separate from the boy for half a year first. If the boy still felt this way by then, she would agree to be with him. Upon hearing this, the boy immediately agreed. He also said that he would wait for her even if it took 10 years. But as soon as he turned around, he accidentally heard the woman tell her colleague that she had lied to him, and the colleague had also had a crush on the woman all along. After noticing that the boy was eavesdropping, he deliberately pretended to be the woman's boyfriend and took her away. The boy was therefore heartbroken, thinking that the woman had abandoned him just like everyone else. When his father asked him to go abroad for further studies for 3 years and promised him the opportunity to inherit the company upon his return, the boy agreed. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. The woman had already transformed from a spy into an ordinary office worker, but she never waited for the boy to fulfill the 6-month promise and come looking for her. The woman therefore thought that the boy had changed his mind, but she still held a glimmer of hope. She even repeatedly rejected the colleague's advances because of this. But on this day, when she attended a colleague's gathering, she heard the news that the boy had returned to inherit a top-tier consortium and that he would be engaged to a wealthy daughter. Upon hearing this, the woman's heart instantly shattered and she wanted to leave, but when she turned around, she found that the boy was right behind her. He even directly took out stomach medicine and handed it to her, although the woman did not take the medicine out of anger. But seeing this, the colleagues could tell that the relationship between the two was not shallow. Upon asking, they found out that the woman used to be the boy's tutor. The woman's boss immediately took the opportunity to curry favor with the boy. He even talked about the news that the boy was about to get engaged recently, praising that he and the wealthy daughter were a perfect match. However, the boy suddenly asked the woman why she did not tell everyone that his first kiss and first night were given to his tutor. Hearing this, everyone was dumbfounded. Looking at the boy's very serious appearance, it did not look like a joke. The boss immediately excused himself and left with the other colleagues. Only then did the boy hand the stomach medicine to the woman again. But the woman could not bear it anymore and scolded him for embarrassing her and her colleagues. Then she also took out stomach medicine from her bag, saying that she just made an excuse of a stomachache because she did not want to see the boy. With that said, she prepared to leave. However, the boy chased after her relentlessly. He even directly sent away the taxi that the woman had called, insisting on sending her home personally. The woman had no choice but to get into his car. How could she expect that the boy would suddenly kiss her forcefully? The woman pushed him away angrily, scolding him how he could have become like this in 3 years, kissing women casually. However, the boy said that he only kissed her. If she wanted him to change back to the obedient and well-behaved look he used to have, he could change back at any time. However, the woman said that it was not necessary. She already had a boyfriend. The boy immediately asked if it was still the boyfriend from 3 years ago. Only then did the woman realize that he had been misunderstanding her relationship with her colleague, but she did not explain. Just when she arrived home, she saw a colleague coming to find her. She then told the boy that she was already living with her boyfriend, telling him not to come and even disturb her again. With that said, she walked over affectionately pretending that the colleague was her boyfriend. Seeing this, the boy was suddenly filled with jealousy. He rushed up directly and kissed her forcefully. The colleague, who had been pursuing the woman, quickly pushed him away upon seeing this. However, the boy domineeringly declared that he did not care what relationship the colleague had with the woman in the past, but from now on, the woman could only be his woman. The colleague was instantly filled with anger upon hearing this. Seeing that the two were about to get into a fight, the woman could only persuade the colleague to leave first, saying she wanted to talk to the boy alone. As a result, the boy thought he had won the victory and pushed his luck, insisting on going to the woman's house to talk. The woman did not agree to go home, but then the boy saw someone passing by and directly grabbed the woman, acting coquettishly and saying that she could not bully him and then abandon him. Seeing the passers-by whispering and discussing, the woman had no choice but to take the boy to her house. It was then that the boy discovered the woman had just been lying to him. She was not living with her boyfriend at all. Because of this, he could no longer control his longing for the woman and could not wait to carry her to the bed, wanting to be intimate. But just then, his rumored girlfriend kept calling him. The boy could not bear it any longer and directly shouted insults at her, saying that he was currently at the woman's place and telling her not to disturb him. With that said, he hung up the phone and explained to the woman that he had no relationship with his rumored girlfriend whatsoever and that she was the only one in his heart. Only then did the woman realize that the boy had not changed his heart. Under his intense offensive, she could not hold back and spent another wonderful night with him. But when she woke up the next day, the woman regained her composure and told the boy not to come looking for her again. The boy was very confused by this, not understanding why the woman was unwilling to accept him when she obviously liked him too. However, the woman did not give any explanation and went directly to the school to work. Unexpectedly, as soon as she arrived at the school, the boy's rumored girlfriend came looking for her and publicly scolded the woman, calling her a shameless slut who, despite being so much older than the boy, still insisted on seducing him. However, the woman did not tolerate her behavior and directly slapped her across the face. The rumored girlfriend became even angrier but could not defeat the woman, so she went to find the principal, wanting to use her family's power to make the principal fire the woman. Just then, the boy chased over again. He not only publicly declared that he would only love her for the rest of his life, but also threatened his fiancée that if she dared to bully the woman again, he would cut off all cooperation with her family, even to prevent others from bullying her. He simply bought the school where she worked to give it to her. The boy thought that any woman would be moved by such actions. However, when he proposed to her with a large diamond ring, the woman flatly rejected him and put the ring on his fake finger instead. The boy was therefore extremely confused. He could understand why she abandoned him 3 years ago when he was not outstanding enough, but now that he was the president of the conglomerate and a new financial tycoon, why would she still reject him? However, the woman stated that she had given him a chance once. During their 6-month agreement, she had waited at the agreed location for 7 days, yet she never saw any sign of the boy. Instead, she received news that he had gone abroad to study in seclusion. Her heart had been thoroughly broken because of this. Only at this moment did the boy finally realize that the woman's 6-month agreement was not a lie, so he immediately explained that it was all a misunderstanding because he had seen the woman leaving with his rival back then, and he had thought she would abandon him just like everyone else. However, the woman stated that what stood between them was not a misunderstanding, but the cowardice that the boy had never changed. Otherwise, when he saw her with his rival, he could have simply rushed up to ask for clarification, instead of hiding for 3 years and only daring to reappear in front of her after he had succeeded, trying to impress her with power and his 3 years of hard work. But the woman had already been disillusioned during those 3 years of waiting. Not only was she not moved by his dramatic return with power, but she actually found it quite ridiculous. Upon hearing this, the boy was completely at a loss. He could only go to his good friend to drink away his sorrows. Unexpectedly, he received a phone call at that moment, learning that his fiancée had reported him to his father, and that his father was talking to the woman right now. The boy immediately rushed home in a hurry. However, his father and the woman had already started arguing by then, because although he had failed to investigate the woman's identity as a secret agent, he had confirmed one thing: the bullet that the boy had taken for the woman 3 years ago was originally meant for her. He therefore suspected that the woman had an unclean background and put on a show of doing what was best for his son, wanting her to leave him, planning to let his son marry his fiancée instead. However, the woman could not help but expose his hypocritical true colors. He was only doing this because he thought his son had used value, not because he truly cared about him. Seeing this, the wealthy man stopped pretending. He immediately stated that it was his son's honor to have use value. Then he took out a check, asking the woman how much money she wanted to leave. However, the woman stated that she only needed a glass of water. Then she picked up a glass of water and splashed it in his face, adding that she had wanted to do this ever since she learned 3 years ago that the father had broken the boy's finger. With that said, she left the villa, and this scene was exactly what the arriving boy saw. Only then did he suddenly realize that the woman had never cared about any power or status, and she did not need him to become strong to protect her. On the contrary, she had been protecting him all along, but he had foolishly tried to conquer her with his power. The suddenly enlightened boy returned to his former appearance the next day and appeared at the entrance of the woman's school. To show his sincerity to the woman, the boy specifically asked his rival to go with him to confess his love, and declared that he would no longer forcefully occupy the woman by relying on his status. From now on, he wants to compete fairly with his rival. Seeing this, the rival immediately stated that he had brought the woman her favorite flowers and her favorite shrimp to eat. However, the boy mocked the rival for having no sincerity, because the flowers he prepared were were personally selected one by one at the flower shop, and the shrimp was also cooked by his own hands. Watching the two of them quarreling loudly in front of the office like children, the woman suddenly felt speechless, telling them not to disturb her work. As a result, just after getting off work that day, she saw the two of them blocking the company gate with their cars again. Seeing this, the rival immediately mocked the boy for not understanding the woman. With her low-key personality, she would not take his luxury car. However, the boy snapped his fingers, and the next second, his subordinates delivered an electric car and a bicycle. Watching the two of them about to start arguing again, the woman turned and left in anger. The boy mocked the rival for having short legs and told him not to chase after her. Saying this, he quickly chased after her. However, the rival's attention was attracted by a group of reporters. On the other side, after the boy caught up with the woman, she couldn't help but reprimand him for not acting like a proper CEO, asking why he did such boring and childish things every day. Only then did the boy find the opportunity to apologize to the woman, claiming that the CEO position was far less important than the woman. But he used to feel that he was far inferior to the mature and steady rival because he saw the woman with the rival, and that the woman would eventually abandon him. That was why he chose to hide in inferiority, wanting to conquer the woman again after he became strong. As a result, he brought a lot of pain to the woman. But now, under the woman's lesson, he has realized his mistake. He knows that the woman has always loved the original boy who had nothing but was willing to take a bullet for her, rather than the hypocritical man now who covers up his cowardice by relying on his CEO status. He hopes the woman can give him one more chance to pursue her. Looking at his pleading appearance, the woman's resentment and the grievances she suffered during the 3 years of waiting gradually dissipated. But at this moment, the rival came over and reprimanded the boy for being such an actor, pretending to be affectionate here with the woman, while getting engaged to a marriage partner at home. Then he took out the news that the boy's father announced his engagement. The boy immediately explained, saying that this must have been a decision made arbitrarily by his father, and he would handle all obstacles between them as soon as possible. But shortly after the boy left, his fiancée came over to provoke her, saying that her engagement with the boy in 2 days would be broadcast live. At that time, the woman, this old woman, must remember to watch the live broadcast, because the guests invited to their engagement banquet are all celebrities and dignitaries, and a low-class person like the woman is simply not worthy to attend. Although the woman exposed the fiancé's scheme of needing to rely on a family marriage to tie down the man, and finally drove her away in anger, the woman felt extremely disturbed in her heart, because she knew the boy's father was very strong-willed. Sure enough, the boy came over this day, handing her an invitation. The woman was instantly heartbroken, angrily reprimanding him for getting engaged to someone else, and still not forgetting to humiliate her. However, the boy suddenly kissed her, then opened that invitation. Only then did the woman discover that it actually had the boy's and her own names written on it. Only then did the woman realize that for the past few days, the boy had been resisting the family's arranged marriage for her. He not only gave up his position as the heir to the family, but also completely broke off relations with his father. The woman couldn't help but reprimand the boy for being too impulsive. He clearly could have waited until he took control of the family before coming to her. However, the boy stated that he had once made the woman wait for 3 years because of his cowardice. He didn't want the two of them to wait any longer. With that said, he kissed the woman affectionately. The woman, therefore, could no longer restrain her inner love and responded to him. But just a few days later, on the day of their engagement, the boy's wealthy father and the marriage partner suddenly showed up to stop them. The wealthy man also reprimanded the woman, calling her a major drug lord. He would never allow his son to marry a major drug lord. Upon hearing this, everyone was dumbfounded. The marriage partner then took the opportunity to say that she had just investigated and found out that the woman had been living abroad and only suddenly returned to the country 3 years ago to become the boy's tutor. Coincidentally, there was a major drug lord in the place where the woman used to live, who was also arrested 3 years ago and then escaped to the city. Moreover, the woman's identity had always been mysterious and difficult to trace. They therefore concluded that the woman was a drug lord trying to launder her identity by working as a tutor. Upon hearing this, everyone turned to look at the woman, wanting her to explain, but because her identity involved state secrets, the woman didn't know how to explain for a moment. Seeing this, people couldn't help but suspect that she really was a drug lord. Only the boy believed that the woman was absolutely not a criminal. To make him give up completely, the marriage partner directly brought the woman's father to be a witness. Unexpectedly, the father also confirmed on the spot that the woman had been sponsored by a wealthy woman since she was a child. He suspected at that time that the wealthy woman had ill intentions. He never thought that the wealthy woman would lead his daughter down a path of crime. Upon hearing this, the woman was instantly heartbroken. She couldn't help but question her father why he viewed her in such a way. However, the father stated that after she went to study in another city, she often acted mysteriously and lost contact. He could only think the worst. Upon hearing this, the woman was also filled with mixed emotions. She could only tell the boy that if he also had doubts, they should cancel the engagement first. However, the boy firmly stated that he believed the woman. With that said, he was about to drive away the father, the marriage partner, and the others. The marriage partner, therefore, asked the boy in a fit of rage. The woman was born humble and covered in stains. What exactly did he see in her? However, the boy stated that the woman was better than her in every way. Even if she were a major drug lord, he would still accept it. Upon hearing this, the woman was instantly moved. She then explained that actually, the person who sponsored her back then was the boy's mother. It was also the boy's mother who taught her that a person must have integrity, so she would never do anything illegal. Upon hearing this, the boy suddenly realized why the woman had always patiently taught him. Just then, a group of police suddenly finally showed up. The marriage partner immediately told them to arrest the woman. However, the police instead wanted to arrest the marriage partner on the grounds of framing a national hero. Upon hearing this, everyone was stunned, not understanding why the woman had suddenly become a national hero. At that moment, the woman's colleague, an agent, rushed over and explained to everyone. The reason the woman's whereabouts were close to the criminals was because she was the agent responsible for capturing that criminal. Upon hearing this, everyone was even more shocked. This was because 3 years ago, the news of the criminal gang's destruction had caused a sensation. No one expected that the mastermind behind it was actually the woman, but the arranged fiancé still refused to believe that a humble poor girl like the woman could suddenly become a national hero. Even the woman's own father thought the police had made a mistake, since he knew exactly what kind of person his daughter was. However, the woman's colleague insisted that their work involved state secrets, so the woman had been hiding her identity, especially after the criminal was captured 3 years ago but then escaped to this city. That was why the woman had disguised herself as the boy's tutor. Finally, 2.5 years ago, they got a lead on the criminal. They spent half a year tracking him down and finally arrested him. Now, this matter could finally be made public. Hearing this, the boy suddenly realized why the woman had made a promise to see him again in half a year. It turned out she had gone to capture the criminal. But back then, the boy had mistakenly thought the woman was with her colleague. Because of this, he cowardly went abroad to study for 3 years, failing to keep their half-year appointment. At that moment, the colleague suddenly punched the boy. He publicly admitted that he had always liked the woman, but when he saw the way the woman looked at the boy, he knew he no longer had a chance with her. But 3 years ago, he felt the boy was not worthy of the woman, so he deliberately pretended to be the woman's boyfriend to test the boy. He never expected the boy to cowardly hide abroad because of this. Little did the boy know that to keep her half-year promise to him, the woman had not only fought the criminal multiple times risking her life, but also resigned from her job as an agent afterward. She gave up a bright future, yet she did not wait for the boy to keep his half-year promise. Instead, she endured another painful 3 years of waiting before finally finding him. But fortunately, the boy's performance today was not bad. The rival in love felt that the boy now was worthy of the woman's sacrifices. Only then did the boy truly understand the grievances the woman had endured over the past 3 years. But just as he was moved and wanted to thank the woman, she was already surrounded by reporters. His friends thought the engagement ceremony would definitely have to be called off. However, the boy publicly announced that even if the sky fell, he was going to get engaged to the woman today. Only then was the fiancé taken away for interrogation. The charge was falsely accusing a national hero. The boy's father had no choice but to leave in embarrassment. The boy and the woman were then able to hold their engagement ceremony. But early this morning, the woman had just woken up. She learned the news from the housekeeper. The boy's father had come over. He wanted the boy to take over the family business again. It turned out that the boy had broken off relations with his father for the woman's sake. However, the company he founded on his own was thriving. Afterwards, the boy used certain means to expose the scandals of his father's illegitimate children. This caused the status and reputation of the illegitimate children to plummet. The boy's father was now seriously ill, so he had no choice but to hand over the business to the boy. As the housekeeper spoke, she sighed. She said the boy had now become a formidable and fearsome big shot. Perhaps he was only so obedient in front of the woman. At that moment, the woman saw the housekeeper about to clean the room. The woman couldn't help but ask her a question. She asked why the housekeeper was not cleaning the room she had lived in 3 years ago. Only then did the housekeeper tell her, since she left 3 years ago, the boy had not allowed anyone to clean that room. The woman entered the room out of curiosity. She discovered that everything inside was exactly the same as when she left. Scenes from their acquaintance to their falling in love surfaced in her mind. At that moment, the boy quietly came up behind her. He hugged her. He told her that since she left, he often came here to see things and think of her. The woman was the motivation for his hard work. Upon hearing this, the woman couldn't help but sigh. She recalled when she first saw the boy. She thought he was the same kind of person as herself. He appeared thorny all over on the outside, but his heart was actually very fragile. She had become the boy's motivation. Hadn't the boy and his mother illuminated her life as well? Especially when the woman was falsely accused on the day of their engagement. The boy had chosen to believe her without hesitation. This made the woman feel a warmth she had never experienced before. Just then, the woman's father suddenly arrived. He brought a disc. He claimed it was sent by the boy's mother a long time ago, but at that time, the father did not want his daughter to go to school, so he did not show it to her. The woman played it out of curiosity. She found that it contained many words of encouragement from the boy's mother. It even mentioned the boy. The mother said her son was innately sensitive and fragile inside. She wanted to find a chance to introduce the two of them. She thought the woman might become good friends with her son. It was at that moment that the boy and the woman realized that their fate might have been destined long ago when the boy's mother kindly rescued the girl. Although there had been many twists and turns in between, they had ultimately become each other's salvation.